Time now for an in-depth look at the market news as we start the week. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Jun-sok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Dr. Young, thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Well, last week, with the U.S.-China trade war going on and a slowdown in the semiconductor business and so on, we saw Korea's exports decline for an 11th month in a row. What's your outlook in the near term?
Okay, well, Korean exports were $46.8 billion, which was 14.7% below October last year, and imports were $41.4 billion, which was 14.6% below last year. So Korea did not have a very good October. On the other hand, if you look at it month to month, then exports increased 4.6% from September. Imports increased 6.8% from September. So that's good news among the bad news. And last October's exports were actually quite above what we were expecting last year. So in a sense, partially we did not do well this year, but also partially because we did so much better last year, the numbers look extraordinarily bad compared to last year. But still, the export performance has been disappointing throughout the year, and imports and exports both fell together, so that means that the economic slowdown is continuing. As you previously mentioned in the previous story, government believes that we'll hit the bottom in October and things will start to improve, and the exports will start increasing in January of next year. I have some caveats on that personally because I think it entirely depends on whether President Trump and China gets some kind of agreement worked out, even if it turns out to be a small deal. But if the trade war continues and if it expands to areas like automobiles, then I think even in January we'll see a very bad export performance in Korea.
Right. Well, speaking of trade and other issues, President Moon is in Thailand, as are many other world leaders and top officials. South Korea gets ready to host the ASEAN summit later this month. What will President Moon get out of this trip to Thailand, and how can this boost cooperation with the ASEAN member countries?
Okay, well, ASEAN and the plus three countries, that's Korea, China, and Japan, it's about a third of the global economy, and Korea has been interested in ASEAN countries because, well, we believe that Korean exports are too focused on United States and China, so we've been seeking to diversify, and the ASEAN region is actually a perfect region for Korea to diversify its exports. Vietnam, one of the countries in ASEAN, has emerged as the third largest export destination for Korean goods. It took 9% of total Korean exports this year from January to September, and it's also the fourth largest import partner. Korea, about 4% of Korea's total imports this year came from Vietnam, and Korea has also just signed a CEPA agreement with Indonesia. Korea does have an FTA with ASEAN as a whole, but it's a very light-level FTA, so it doesn't seek deep market liberalization, and as a result, a lot of ASEAN countries want to sign individual FTAs with Korea so that they can achieve deeper liberalization. As I mentioned, Indonesia just signed an FTA, and then Philippines and Malaysia, they're negotiating with Korea to form a deeper level FTAs themselves. So ASEAN is a potential market for Korea to get into. Indonesia, for example, is the fourth highest population country in the world, and still is in a very much a developing stage with very young population. So if we make an inway to Indonesia, that'll prove to be a very good market for Korea in the long run.
Got it. So a lot of potential there indeed. And meanwhile, this week, we're expecting some key economic indicators to come out. How do you see Korean and global stocks moving this week?
Okay, well, we have a lot of interesting variables coming out this week. We have business confidence index coming from the United States. trade account figures coming from U.S. and China. We have a European Central Bank economic report, U.S. consumer credit report, and EU finance ministers meeting, as well as in Korea, we're going to have corporate statement analysis, as well as government finance report. But in the end, I think all of these statistics are going to show that we're not in a good place. The global economy is heading for the slowdown, and Korean economy especially is going to be in a slowdown. So I think for the most part, the news is not going to be good, and as a result, stock market is not going to be very happy. But I think there's one possibility that could pick up, which is the U.S.-China trade negotiations. We've been hearing a lot of things about how a small deal is being worked out. If that is successfully worked out, I think that'll act as a plus for the stock market. And then another wild card variable that we need to watch out for is there's going to be a lot of speeches by the regional governors of the United States Fed, and they've been giving strong signals that they will not change the interest rate, they will not lower it or increase it in the near future. We'll have to see whether they stick to that position or whether there's sort of a crack where some governors want to lower the rates and some governors want to raise the rates, or whether they formed a sort of a consolidated opinion so that the interest rate will be held steady for a long time.
All right, so maybe some choppy waters ahead. Dr. Young, thanks so much for your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.